Hey everybody, welcome to another model building workshop. I am Mr. Allen. I'm coming to you from my basement workshop here in Providence, Rhode Island on behalf of the Community Libraries of Providence. And today we are looking at this old but cool model kit of the Cant Z 1007 bis Alcione. If I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Bitta Riva, which basically means it's got the twin tail fins as opposed to the single one, because there were versions of this bomber with both the twin tail and the single tail. So this is a model kit from Supermodel, and this dates back, I believe, the 70s. This has been around a while. This kit kind of comes back around every so often. Some companies tend to pick this one up over the years. I'm not sure if Italia has done so with this. I know they've got a lot of the other from this line of kits. I'll show you some of the catalog right there on the side of the box. It's pretty much the entire Italian Air Force from the World War II era was pretty much put out in 1/72nd scale by Supermodel, and they were fun kits, kind of in the old Airfix Revell-ish sort of thing from the time. And I was very excited to get a hold of this kit back in the day, and I got another one, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So let me show you what she looks like built. Now, this kit has been in my collection. I'm trying to handle it very gingerly here, because this has been around in my collection for a long time. I built this, wow, I don't know. I'm going to date myself here, but probably late 80s, early 90s is when I put this together. I based the camouflage scheme on a book that I had at the time. Yeah, it's kind of hard to hold this. There's so much stuff going on with this kit, and I don't want to damage anything. So I'm trying very hard not to hit a soft spot. So this is an Italian bomber from the 30s and 40s, the World War II era. Italians really liked these tri-motors, which is something that I was fascinated by, because I find, honestly, I think this is a really cool looking aircraft, one of the coolest looking airplanes of World War II, in my opinion, because to me it's kind of an ugly duckling, but that just makes it more fascinating. It's got a sleek look to it, but yet bizarre because of the tri-motor design. I mean, check that out, right? And the paint schemes on these planes are usually really brilliant looking. So I went with this design. This is one of my earliest airbrushed aircraft kits as well. So it's kind of got a place in my collection for a number of reasons. And here's the underside with the bomb bay. And kind of an odd assortment of bombs on the wings. As you can see, it does not have a lot of defensive armament, which is one of the issues this plane suffered. It only has like 4 machine guns for defense. You'll notice the top turret looks like it's got 2 machine guns and going different directions, but one's a gun and the other one is like a kind of like a counterweight, I guess, to keep the turret movable and functional, if I'm explaining that well. But it's not a weapon. Yes, this is built a long, long time ago. And let's take a look at what the instructions and all that have to say. And I've got some pictures here. I'll show you some books in just a moment on this, but I'll give you a quick idea of some of the different schemes. I forget what book I got this from, but anyway, it gives you a few ideas of the really colorful schemes you can get for this plane with the really wild modeling that they've got, spots and speckles, or whatever you want to call them. Some really cool ways of painting this. And you can see here you've got the single tail as well as the twin tail versions there. And what's interesting is they didn't give it a different designation. It's just either, you know, single tail or double tail. That's it. There's no change of number. It's the 1007 in either case. So let's have a look at the old decal sheet, which is right here, and the instruction sheets here as well. So I'm going to be doing this kit again many years later. Although I think this decal sheet looks like it's in really lousy shape, which I'm not going to complain too much because you can get some really cool decal sets for these bombers now, and I have one which is a lot of different Italian bombers from the Fiat BR20 down to this one, so it's got a lot of options on it. So this plane, I'll give you the full history in a moment, but this plane's got a lot of odd features in it. Other than just being a tri-motor, it's also made primarily of wood, which is something of interest too. And even with that wooden construction, these planes were put in use pretty much wherever the Italian Air Force operated during World War II, which is North Africa in the heat, and some in Russia, and all throughout Europe. So these things soldiered on just about anywhere, considering they were made of wood, and managed to be effective. So here's the instruction sheet from back in the day. And like I said, I'm going to be tackling this again. The instruction sheet is probably one of the weaker qualities of this kit. You get your parts breakdown here, which is handy. But look at these blow-up diagrams. There's a lot to digest there. And there's no painting call-outs for the interior whatsoever, so you have to do some research on that. Usually they either love like a light gray or a green gray color for the interior. That seems to be the normal case for Italian aircraft of the period. So you can see there's a lot happening there, and you have options for keeping the bomb doors open like I did, or you can keep them closed. What's interesting is the crew do not sit next to each other. They're behind each other, one behind the other. So that's an interesting feature with this plane, but it keeps the fuselage slender by doing that. And you can see here with the tail construction, yeah, that these makes it easy for them to do both versions with the twin tail like this one, or the single tail version as well, by just having it, you know, separate. You build that part separately. A lot going on there with the landing gear, a lot of pieces and fenders and whatnot for that. And then the paint scheme, which I thought was one of the sore spots of this model kit, and which is why I sought a different option on mine and painted it differently, because the two options they give you is one for the fascist Italian Air Force here in an olive green color with a light gray underneath, with no spots or modeling at all. It's no camouflage other than the green. And that's the same for the other one here, which I think is it's supposed to represent the Italian co-belligerent Air Force in southern Italy later in the war, although I'm not used to seeing them with the red, white, and green stripe on the back on the fins. So the rudder fins there, I find that unusual, but it does show a picture here, although I'm not sure if that's an actual aircraft or that's a model. It's kind of hard to tell what you're looking at there. But I'm not familiar with that paint scheme. And I did read in one of the books I'm going to show you in a second that there was a case of one of these 1007s being captured by the American forces in North Africa. It was refitted with American engines, then passed on to the Free French, who then used it. maybe this scheme is based on that one, but I don't know. I really don't know. So, but in any case, what I did at the time, and I did this kind of in a cheap way by looking at a book, and I just grabbed a sheet of numbers and just changed the squadron number and the plane number, and used the rest of the kit decals, which have held up pretty well considering how old this model kit is. And back then, I did not gloss coat anything for the decals, so I'm surprised they held up as well as they did. One thing that's been good is that this has been inside a case for the duration of that time, and that may have helped save the plane and keep it in the shape that's in. Noticing one thing now, the back of the propellers here are silver. I'm betting that they were probably black blades on the back. That might have been an oversight. I don't know if it's specified in the instruction sheet, but that's usually the case for these, is that they would be silver in the front and black in the back. And I don't see anything that indicates that at all. Nah, no. Anyhow, something to contemplate. So for parts, you've got a very large base and stand for it here, which is clear. Makes sense it's going to be huge because this thing is not a light model whatsoever to hold. There's a lot of weight to that kit. And typical of a like an Italeri kit, I guess, from the time period with the parts. I would say it's on that level for that time period. Although the figures, as you can see, I don't know if you can see them there, are not great. At least the ones that are going to be in the gun positions are kind of sad looking there, but the pilot and co-pilot aren't terrible. And then we get the, much heavier plastic here with the fuselage and the wings here. It's a pretty solid kit as far as plastic goes. Almost feels like you're holding onto a special hobby kits with the way the plastic feels, but it's not. This is Supermodel. And if I remember correctly, it went together pretty well. I don't remember having any real stress with the assembly of this. I think the painting was really the challenge of this kit. But I think that's the case of any Italian Air Force plane of World War II, is these intricate paint schemes. But as I said, I deliberately chose one because I didn't like the all green and gray. I thought that was bland. Let's take a look at some history of this aircraft. And again, I'm going to go back to this one, the Combat Aircraft of World War II. This is by Bill Gunston. This is one of my go-tos. And we can look at a bunch of these, Italian warplanes with their really fascinating paint schemes. Even the ones over here that were exported to Hungary up top and then Norway down the bottom. And on the other side here toward the bottom, that cream color is a Austrian plane. Really cool looking. And here's your 1007 up top here. Let's get a little bit of background on this. So the Cantieri Falcone. I'm not good with Italian considering I'm in Rhode Island. So they were they entered the aircraft business in 1923, and their subsidiary, tough time with the words today, is, let's see if I can say this correctly, Cantieri Riuniti dell'Adriatico, which is always shortened to just CANT, as in can't pronounce it. Cant. And what they were known for, this aircraft company, was known mainly for creating these spectacular flying boats. And this is actually a land version of one of their flying boats. Originally planned with liquid-cooled engines, they switched over to these Piaggio radial engines with the BIS version, the improved version, and basically now we had a plane. So these are the Alcyones, or which are known as in English as Kingfishers. And yeah, the BIS version here, which had a longer fuselage, bigger wings, stronger landing gear, and almost half of them had the twin tail fins as opposed to the single. But they were easy meat for RAF fighters, but they, says they bravely fought on to the Italian surrender in 1943. So that's the history of the plane, and some of the cool Capronis that are there as well. Got a few more things to look at here before we call it a day. Unfortunately, the label is on this one, so you can't really see that one. But that was a kind of blacked out there. And this is an old book of the Italian Air Force, Volume 1, from Squadron Signal. And this is from Christopher Shores, who's the author here. And this is from, what date is this? 1976. Yeah. But to give you some idea, here's some other fascinating colors of this plane and other Italian aircraft. And these tri-motors, again, ugly ducklings or beauties depending. And look at the paint schemes here. I mean, this is, depending on your painting skill, I mean, it's an airbrush terror or dream, depending on how you want to call it and how good your skills are at painting. That makes some fascinating stuff here. And some more here. I think there's another photo of one there in combat. It's not as famous as the other bombers, though some consider this to be the best of the bombers, depending on which experts you look at or read from. And here's some more here. And what's interesting here is you can see the prototype that had the inline engines. That one did not work out so well, and they ended up switching to the radials. Anyway, so there is a look at a really interesting Italian bomber. That, I don't know if a lot of people aren't even probably familiar with this plane, but it's a cool one, and I recommend giving it a shot. You can find one. Don't think they're too difficult to come across on eBay these days. I mean, nothing's difficult to find. And again, many interesting painting options available. If you search for decal sets, you'll find some really cool ones out there. So, yeah, happy modeling, and we'll be talking to you soon here on the Model Building Workshop. Bye now. Keep on building.